After yet another interreligious event held in the Vatican, a priest, a clear and courageous voice, breaks the silence and denounces what many see, but few say, the greatest contradiction of our ecclesial time. As we speak of peace and unity, a disturbing truth emerges that the media rarely shows, but which becomes more evident every day. It is the voice of those who love the Church and dare to demand clarity. Stay with us until the end. The interview broadcast by LifeSite News, in which John Henry Weston speaks with Father Chris ALAR, a well-known Marian priest and Catholic communicator, has attracted much attention. At the heart of the debate is a delicate yet crucial issue: the growing confusion within the Catholic world regarding the identity of the true God and the difference between him and the deity worshipped by other faiths, particularly those marked by the crescent moon symbol. Father ALAR, with his usual clarity, denounces a return of theological misunderstanding, which, in his opinion, has its roots in the years following the Second Vatican Council. He speaks of a step backwards, of an understanding that is today even more distorted than that which emerged in the first post-conciliar decades. According to the priest, the problem stems from a false equivalence: the idea that all monotheistic faiths worship the same God. This thesis, he claims, has no basis in Catholic doctrine and actually confuses the faithful. The priest explains that the God of the Christians is a personal God who has bent down to man, to the point of sharing his nature, while in the religion of the crescent moon, the divinity remains absolute, unattainable, distant. Our God became man, he emphasizes, while the other would never do so. Putting them on the same level means obscuring the mystery of the incarnation, a clear judgment which strikes at the very heart of the Catholic faith, the conviction that only in the Word made flesh is the fullness of truth manifested. Father ALAR does not make accusations, but warns against a tendency toward doctrinal confusion that, in the name of dialogue, risks distorting the evangelical message. It is from this concern that his reflection arises, a call to rediscover the clarity of theological language and fidelity to what the Church has always taught, even when the world would prefer a more accommodating discourse. In the interview, Father Chris ALAR addresses an issue that affects the daily life of the Church: the distorted meaning of the word proselytism, a term that once expressed missionary zeal and love for the truth, but which today, observes the priest, has been almost demonized in the name of so-called tolerance. Talking about proselytism has become an evil, he explains bitterly, as if proclaiming Christ were an offense or an imposition. In this linguistic transformation, ALAR sees the sign of a deeper change, that of a church that, in trying to please the world, risks forgetting its original mission: to bring the gospel to all peoples. Yet remember, the Second Vatican Council, often cited in support of interreligious dialogue, clearly stated that only the Catholic faith possesses the fullness of truth, while other religions contain only fragments or seeds of truth. It is not a condemnation, the priest specifies, but a distinction that serves to remind us that the truth is not a mosaic in which each tile is as good as the next. Father ALAR emphasizes that respect for other faiths cannot mean relativism. Dialogue, he explains, is only possible if it starts from truth, not compromise. When confrontation becomes a pretext for silencing the message of Christ, then dialogue becomes a gesture of spiritual weakness. We cannot, he says, equate the God who became man with divinities who deny his incarnation. His words reveal a severe but clear diagnosis. The contemporary church, in attempting to appear inclusive, has ended up suspecting itself, almost ashamed of its evangelical mandate. A new tolerance, as ALAR calls it, which translates not into charity, but into indifference. And when truth becomes optional, he concludes, even faith loses its saving power. Continuing the interview, Father Chris ALAR extends his reflection beyond the theological level, touching on ecclesial and political terrain. The priest cites with concern the words of Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Vatican Secretary of State, regarding the difficult situation that has afflicted some regions of West Africa for years, where Christian communities are living under increasing pressure. According to ALAR, the Holy See's response to these episodes appears too diplomatic, almost reluctant to acknowledge the spiritual dimension of the problem. The Cardinal had in fact stated that the tensions did not stem from a religious conflict, but from social issues related to economic and territorial relations between communities. A cautious stance which, according to the priest, risks obscuring the reality of the facts. Father ALAR cites Catholic sources documenting situations of great instability for many faithful, highlighting how Christians in various areas are the target of discrimination and restrictions. Reducing everything to a problem of civil coexistence, he observes, is to ignore the truth. The priest then extends his gaze to South Asia, citing the case of India, where the political and cultural climate makes life increasingly difficult for Christian minorities. It recalls how, in some regions, freedom of worship is hampered by restrictive regulations and a growing religious nationalism that promotes the idea of a single spiritual identity tied to the nation. There is talk of dialogue, he notes bitterly, while in many places people pray together symbolically, forgetting that not everyone enjoys the same freedom of faith. Father ALAR does not intend to attack Vatican diplomacy, but he denounces this as the risk of a church too fearful of stating the full truth, preferring a language of balance to a prophetic word. It is here, he says, that the confusion of our times manifests itself. The inability to recognize the suffering of Christians in the world and to openly defend their witness. And so, while calls for universal peace are multiplying in the Vatican and prayer meetings are being organized with representatives of different religions, Father Chris ALAR puts his finger on the sore spot of a contradiction that many perceive but few dare to name. On the one hand, the image of an open church, one that engages in dialogue, welcoming and seeking harmony with all. On the other, the increasingly widespread perception among the faithful that this push toward universalism is obscuring the clarity of Catholic truth. The priest does not dispute the need for dialogue, but he denounces its symbolic drift, that of a confrontation that risks becoming a spiritual stage set where the word peace replaces the word truth. We can pray for peace, he observes, but we cannot pray as if all faiths were equal. It is a warning that brings the Christian mystery back to the center, that of the one God made man, the insurmountable point of distinction between Catholicism and every other religious path. Thus ends an interview intended not to create scandal, but to reopen a debate, that of the relationship between Catholic truth and the apparent harmony of a world that prefers quiet compromise to the clarity of faith. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment, Amen. God bless you.